Hey guys, 2 weeks to go before the ULEZ expansion kicks in. And I'm in my 1989 non-compliant BMW E30 325i. And I'm going to be driving it as much as possible over the next 2 weeks, because after that, it's going to become almost prohibitively expensive for me to drive this as often as I do, considering it's a classic car. 2 weeks to go. Where do we stand? Where are we going? I'll talk about it all right after this.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
Right then, so 2 weeks to go. I was reminded of that actually by the fact that I got called up very early this morning and asked if I would be on LBC. Nick Ferrari, and I was like, oh, blurry-eyed. I was like, oh, okay, whatever, you know. Had my cup of coffee and stuff like that. Sat down and spoke to him, I think for about a sum of maybe 3 minutes, something like that. Thanks a lot. Still, I mean, fair enough, you know. I mean, they are having the discussion. And to be fair to Nick Ferrari, I think he's pretty fair on the matter. I think he's looking at it, you know, quite objectively, as it were. And being a Londoner himself, I think that he's also quite understanding and possibly sympathetic to the cause of all those that are protesting against the ULEZ expansion. It kicks in 2 weeks' time, 29th of August. What a nightmare, I have to say. Now, as we're racing up to this deadline, to the D-Day, as it were, there are obviously several events that are happening, and it's great to see all the activity that's happening. The ULEZ awareness days and the anti-ULEZ expansion protest days that are happening. There are several, I think 13, 19, 20. There's a big one at the Ace Cafe. I think a load of bikers are going to be involved in that. So of course it does affect people on bikes as well. Something that I maybe didn't cover enough, but I did cover recently in a long conversation with the boss of the Ace Cafe, and also from somebody from MAG, Motorcycle Action Group, in a podcast recently. Check that on my playlist. So there's that. I think there's a couple of other things as well going on. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to. I've tried to go to as many of these events as I possibly can. Covered many of them. I've probably been one of the few people that has consistently tried to do that. Sadly, I won't be able to make it to most of these events, if not all of them, before the deadline. And the reason being is because I need to work. Man's got to earn money. Man's got to earn a living, right? But in addition to that, I'm going to be working at the British Motor Show this week, actually. Thursday to Sunday, 17th to the 20th of August. British Motor Show, fantastic event. This is my third year with them, third year working for them, and the event has just got bigger and bigger, better and better. And when you say motor show, it's not just a motor show. I mean, there's so much going on. There's so much live activities, there's celebrities, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can see, that you can actually do, that you can get involved in. It's just such a laugh. It's a great day out. I got lots of information on that on my channel, browncarguy.com, or on this YouTube channel as well. Go check it out. By the way, if you do come, it'd be great to see you. I'll be hosting the Tech Hub, so find me at the Tech Hub. Come and see me there, and I've got a discount code for you. So if you want to book your tickets online, if you type in browncarguy5 at the checkout, then I think you get £10 off a family ticket and £5 off an individual ticket. Hey ho, that's something, right? So anyway, I'm going to be busy with that. I'm probably going to be driving to it, from it and to it in this car, unless it rains really badly. I don't like to drive this when it rains too much. You know, it is a classic car, let's be honest, you know. So I don't like to drive it when it rains too heavily. So if it's raining a lot, then I might not be, but otherwise I will be. But the reality is that it's my freedom to choose whether I'm driving this, or whether I'm driving something else, or whether I'm taking the public transport system. And that freedom is frankly being taken away for completely unjustifiable means, really. You know, the fact is, when they talk about, so we were on the radio this morning, and this lady was on there talking about, oh, it's at illegal levels, illegal levels. It does my head in. It's not at illegal levels. It's like, where are you getting? I mean, the thing is, people just keep shouting that. People just keep saying that it's at illegal levels. And then you want to say, well, okay, can you present me with the data? And they can't present you with the data. I mean, I've tried to look for it. Where is the data that says that London is at illegal levels? I'm in London right now. I don't know if you can see through the sunroof. It doesn't look like it's illegal levels. I mean, and you may say, well, pollution, you can't see pollution. Well, mate, when I was growing up in the 70s in central London, you could see pollution. You could see pollution. You could see it, smell it, taste it, right? You can't anymore. I got to be honest, the air is not as clean as it was when it was in lockdown. Lockdown was extraordinary. You literally could open a window, go outside, and you could go, wow, what a difference it made. There's no question of that. But at the end of the day, don't forget, we're living in a big urban metropolis. In fact, it's the biggest, most vibrant, one of the biggest, most vibrant, most energetic, most busiest cities in the world. You know, if you're going to live here, you know that's going to come with baggage, and part of that baggage is inevitably going to be pollution. All this talk about net zero in a city like this is impossible, you know, because there's activity, there's human activity. You can't curtail all human activity, so you're going to have that. But when they talk about, oh, well, it's illegal levels, you know, like I said, you know, I updated my all the text on browncarguy.com and everything you need to know about ULEZ. I updated all the text right at the top of the page. The page basically is a compilation of all of my content, all of the videos that I've done in relation to ULEZ. So if you scroll down, you see the videos. There's part 1, part 2, because there's so many videos now that I couldn't fit them onto one page. But at the beginning, however, there's 2 videos that are pinned, which are fundamentals. So the second one, the first one of those announces ULEZ expansion. The second one of those explains the independent report by Jacobs that was commissioned by TfL to talk about, you know, how this would impact people. And you know, when you look at that data, you realize that actually there is no justification. That's the data that can easily convince anybody that there is no justification. It says that there's negligible impact. The most that you can expect in terms of improvement is 1.3%, and in terms of socio-economic activity for many communities in the Outer London area, it will actually have a negative impact. This is clearly stated in the in that report if you go through it. So again, you go back to the reality of, well, what are the illegal levels? And you go and you look at it and you go, what are the illegal? Nitrogen dioxide, 40 micrograms per cubic meters, with the, what is it? We'll be looking at particles, particulate emissions, of course, particulate 2.5. So the main things that they look at is nitrogen dioxide and particulate emissions. Particulate emissions, you look at that, and the legal limit of that is about 20, I think, if I recall correctly off the top of my head. And again, when you go to, and you know, you guys know, the people that watch this channel regularly know that I've been all around London, both within the ULEZ zone and into the proposed expansion zone, with a temp top air quality meter, and the air quality meter which is calibrated from 0 to 500. 50 being the first safety threshold, so anything below 50 being actually safe. The reality is that on public roads, even in the busiest traffic junctions that I could find, I never really got it above 30 on the AQI index. And again, we're looking at, now that doesn't measure nitrogen dioxide, but it did measure particulates, and particulates generally stayed below, again, the safety threshold of 12. So normally about 8 or less, you know. In fact, you get higher at home. I've had much higher at home. You know, I've had much higher readings, even on the AQI. I've regularly had it over 50 at home. You know, that's a whole different discussion. But the reality is that there are particulate emissions, particularly when you're cooking and stuff in the kitchen, that you get at home. But, you know, people say, well, yeah, it's just a little device. How can it be, you know, how can it be accurate, blah, 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 blah. As I keep saying, there are official air quality monitoring stations dotted not only all around London, all around the country, right, and all around the world, and all of that data is accessible. It's accessible online. Just Google it, it's right there. You can find it, and you can find live data. And I checked over a 2-day period. It gives you charts for 2-day periods when it comes to nitrogen dioxide, which I just mentioned, 40 micrograms per cubic meters, and particulate emissions, if I'm correct, 20 micrograms per cubic meters thresholds. And in 2-day periods, the nitrogen dioxide, the peak, they had a series of bars. You look at the tallest bar that you could find, the peak was 22.5. 22.5. And that was for nitrogen dioxide, so it's just over half. Similarly with particulate emissions, I think the peak was 8. There's stuff you can see on my website, you can go and see it there. So the whole argument about, oh, the air quality is illegal, so therefore we must do something, well, it's not. You know, and like, please, somebody, you send me the evidence of where and how it's illegal, And don't forget, I will check that evidence against the live data coming from these monitoring stations. Don't forget, a lot of this stuff, the data regarding the 4,000 deaths, which are not, it's just an artificially estimated, extrapolated number that they've come up with, that comes from 2019. The data that Sadiq Khan often uses to talk about stunted lungs in children, that data also comes from 2019. It actually comes from a report in the Lancet from 2019. And the reality is that, don't forget that that comes from 2019. The first ULEZ was introduced in April 2019. And you go, well, okay, well, maybe, you know, that's after ULEZ was introduced. Well, no, because obviously if you're doing data, then you will research up to that point. So it will definitely have covered a period, that research will definitely have covered a period before the actual introduction of ULEZ. ULEZ, by their own admission, they say that it's a 46% improvement in central London and a 21% improvement in inner London. But of course, laws of diminishing returns applies. That's now, ULEZ now currently covers, I think, an area of 225 square miles of central inner London, as I said. But when you expand it out to the whole of Greater London, you're covering an area of 600 square miles. I mean, what, nearly 3 times. It's a big, big space. I was driving up to Uxbridge the other day when I went to interview that guy, meet that guy when he completed his 1 week long hunger strike. And I drove up to Uxbridge from my place, and I'm just on the border of the ULEZ zone. So I'm in northwest London. I'm literally live next to the North Circular. And then I drove out. It took me about 35-40 minutes to get out to that place. And I drove up the A40 M40 to get up there. And it struck me that I'm driving all this way to a place called Uxbridge. I'm driving on the motorway. I'm looking to my left, I'm looking to my right. All I'm seeing is green. You know, green. It's just green. It's just beautiful. Everything is just green. It's lovely. And I'm driving up there, and I get all the way up to Uxbridge, and then we realize that, of course, Uxbridge is where they want to bring the ULEZ. Uxbridge, obviously, is famously where the Labour Party famously lost the recent by-election. Boris Johnson's hood, if you like. When he stepped down, and then there was a by-election. Labour thought they would win it for the first time. They lost it, and it's pretty clear to them that they lost it because of ULEZ. It's been made very clear. And in fact, now what's happening, and this is one of the reasons that they were talking about it on the radio this morning, was that, you know, Keir Starmer is now like trying to distance himself from the whole ULEZ thing. So now he's like, well, because he said right then with the Express thing, he said Sadiq Khan needs to reflect. Sadiq Khan is not stepping back. He can't now, because he's, you know, like we've said before, you know, he's put himself into a corner. He has to. His ego, his reputation, everything depends on this now. He's already said that, you know, he's chair of C40 cities. Maybe it's part of his contractual obligations, which really he should be looking at his obligations in representing Londoners, not an international cabal of mayors of cities. But he basically can't step back from it. I guess, you know, to an extent, he was probably looking for a positive verdict from, in our sense, a positive verdict from the judicial review as well, because that would have given him an easy get out. Now he can't get out, so he can't, you know, unless he's going to surprise me and amaze me, he can't U-turn. But Keir Starmer, who's previously gone, yes, we love ULEZ, we love Sadiq Khan, we're going to have ULEZ everywhere, we're going to have it everywhere, it's going to be great in London, then we're going to have it everywhere. Now he's like, oh no, we're not going to have it everywhere now. No, we're not. And then Sadiq Khan needs to think about what he's doing in London. Yeah, that's what he's saying now. And the reality is that that's true. The pressure has to be piled on. One thing that I would say to you guys is that, like I said, and I think I said this in a post as well recently, I can't make it out to these events if, you know, thanks to people like Prabdeep Singh, who went on the hunger strike and suddenly managed to do what all of us have not been able to do, is to get, you know, proper attention from mainstream media coverage, from reporters and television crews and radio crews to come down and cover these events. But he managed to do it. He did it. So he's sort of broken, you know, you sort of break through that thing, especially now with 2 weeks to go. I would expect that if you're covering these events, if you're doing these events, I would expect that some media should at least start to turn up to them. Because, you know, now we are so close to it, and it is such an issue of contention, especially within the major parties themselves. So if these people turn up and if they interview them, I think that the call now should be that they should delay this. They should delay it because on the basis of the result in Uxbridge, they should delay it and wait until the mayoral election, which is 2nd of May next year. 2nd of May next year, it's not that far away, really isn't. 2nd of May next year, mayoral election. We've got Howard Cox from Reform and Fair Fuel saying that he's going to get rid of ULEZ entirely. We've got Susan Hall from, just combined them, Susan Hall from the Conservative Party. She's standing opposite, she's standing for the mayoral position. And she's saying that she'll stop the expansion from day one, so she'll roll it back. People have said, look, you can't roll it back once it's there. I've spoken to her, I've spoken to both Howard and I've spoken to her as well, and I asked them both, can you roll it back once it's already in place? And both of them have said to me, yes, absolutely we can. Absolutely we can. So this mayoral election, in a sense, can be turned into a ULEZ referendum. And why not? Why not? You know, because at the end of the day, and I've said this, and I've spoken to other anti-ULEZ expansion protesters, and they've agreed with me. I was like, well, I said, look, if they let it go to that, and it goes to the mayoral election, and Sadiq Khan gets voted in again, then we'll just have to accept it. At that point, you know, that's democracy in action, right? That was Brexit, that was ULEZ, that could be ULEZ. We'll just have to accept it. We'll go democracy in action. If people really want, because some people say, oh, Peel, London, you guys, why are you making all these protests? People really, really want ULEZ. I'm like, okay, well, if people really want ULEZ, because they haven't really had a chance to tell us. Let's be honest, the consultation was bunk. It was all fixed, and even then it was 60% against. If people really want it, give them a chance to tell us. Give them a chance, give Londoners a chance to speak out and say whether or not they want it. And if they say they want it, if Sadiq Khan is returned back to the position of mayor for a 3rd term on the 2nd of May next year, then we'll accept it. We'll have to accept it. We'll go, okay, fine. It is what Londoners want, and we accept it. I suspect the result will be different, though. That's my thinking. That's my feeling. I think it'll be different, and I think that based on what's happened in Uxbridge, I might be right in that contention. But anyway, the point being is so that's what we should say. That's what we should now call for. We should call for the fact that this should be delayed. Even Keir Starmer is admitting that there's a cost of living crisis at the moment. This is causing unnecessary hardship. I've spoken to so many people, heart-wrenching, heartbreaking stories, honestly. Just even when I went to see Prabdeep, I spoke to people there. People came up to me. They told me their stories, and they're just shocking and sad, you know. And, you know, it's shocking and sad for me. It's tragic for me that I'm going to have to cut short again my relationship with this car. Those of you that have followed this car, hashtag BCG BMW E30, will know that I used to own one of these in the 90s. And I had to sell it early. I didn't have an intention of selling it. I absolutely adore it. This is one of my, in my top 3 of the best cars I've ever owned. The cars that had the biggest impact on me. And I had to sell it for financial reasons at that time. I always regretted selling it. Then this came up for auction last year, March last year. Pretty much similar, pretty much exactly the same, you know, apart from different color, but pretty much exactly the same as the car that I used to own. And I was like, damn, it's time to continue that love affair, that relationship. It's time to pick that up again and see where it goes. And I gotta tell you, I've been loving it. I've been absolutely loving this car. I mean, you know, honestly, I'm very blessed. I'm a motoring journalist. I've driven everything. I've driven everything. I've driven the supercars. I've driven everything, you know. And yet, every time I get into this car, every time I drive off in it, the steering, the gearbox, the fuel, the clutch pedal, the position, the drive, the size of it, the agility of it, even the performance of it, which is not great by current standards, but it's more than adequate for what I need it for. It's a 325 straight 6, you know, about 170 horsepower. Back in the day, that was a lot. Today, it's not that much. But anyway, I love it. Absolutely love it. And honestly, like, I had no intention of moving it on. It's not, you know, but something you got to think about, isn't it? And so anyway, that's my heartbreaking story, but that's you know, that's minor compared to, you know, many of the other stories that I've heard. So when Keir Starmer says that, you know, he's inflicting this hardship upon people, then maybe it is time to go, well, let's just step back. And don't forget, and this was the point I was trying to make just before they cut me short on LBC, was that this has been rushed in. The previous 2 ULEZ expansions gave people like at least a year to get themselves sorted out. This hasn't even been a year. It was confirmed to go ahead in November last year. It's going ahead in August. I mean, it's less than a year. And the reality is that this, in a time of not only the cost of living crisis, but also in a time when their cars are not available. The industry is in flux. The motor trade is in flux. A, because of the pandemic. B, because of the shortage of component supplies. Prices are all over the place. There's not enough new cars. There's not enough used cars. You can't get the sort of car that you want for the money that you got, or the money that they're proposing, $2,000. Yes, you can get a ULEZ compliant car, or you could. I don't know, because prices are going to rocket now. Prices are absolutely rocketing right now, I should imagine. So yes, you could get a ULEZ compliant car for less than $2,000. But is that the car that you want? Is that the car that meets your needs? And if you're stepping out of a family SUV diesel, and now you have to go through a small little, hatchback that's a ULEZ compliant petrol car, and you have to transport a family of 4 over a distance, then does that meet your needs? But that's another part of it. So this is what we should call for. So guys, this is it. Last 2 weeks, this is the call that should go out. Let's delay this. Let's delay it at least until the mayoral election, 2nd of May next year. And then the public has a say. And if the public wants ULEZ in London, we all accept it. We accept it. Okay, fine. That's what it is. People want it. Fair enough. And personally, I can't see any evidence or justification for it, but okay. And also, at least it will give people more time to get themselves sorted out, to not have to lose so much on their existing car. The cost of, like I covered recently, the cost of a car, a typical car, Golf TDI, according to Auto Trader, 2015 model versus a 2016 model. So 2015 not being ULEZ compliant, 2016 being ULEZ compliant. Price differential between them, £3,600. So you're thinking, wow, £3,600 is what it's going to cost you to go from that vehicle to that vehicle. But actually, it's actually a lot more if you think about it, because the fact is that if you lose, because you're losing an amount on your current car that you're selling. So if you say take a mean of that, split it down the middle. Say you're losing, say 1,500, say 1,750 on your existing car, and then paying 1,750 over market value for your newer car, I should say. You're 3,600. That could be $4,000. Could be $4,000 plus. You think about the fact that ULEZ, if you pay it every day for 5 days a week, you're looking at 3,250. So actually, the cost of change is higher than the cost of just paying ULEZ. And that's what I'm telling people. Much as it pains me to say that, oh, well, give Sadiq Khan his £12.50, but I'm saying that, unless you desperately need to change car, then you should think about just keeping hold of your car and let the market settle down, because the market is crazy right now. And again, this is the other point. If we delay it until May, and even if it does come in, then at least that will give people time to save up, to look at their financials, to sort out what they're doing with their existing car, to see what car is appropriate for them to get, etc., etc. So let's just do that. Let's just do that. Surely that makes sense, right? Surely Keir Starmer can exert that sort of pressure on his Labour mayor. Surely he can do that. So this is a message not now to Sadiq Khan, but to Keir Starmer. Sir Keir Starmer, sir, if you're listening, let's do that. Let's delay it till May, till the election. And if Sadiq Khan steps back in and he wants to have ULEZ, then we accept it. And if somebody else gets in, then we know what the public wanted. Good luck, guys. I'll see you at the motor show, or I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments below.
Brown car guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here, or right here on YouTube. Just hit these 3 little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.